So one day I was happy-go-lucky Dev Bob, and the next day I was not so happy-go-lucky Manager Bob.
And I assume the team around you wasn't perfect, needed a little bit of leveling up, had some challenges, maybe
I didn't
maybe
even know
you didn't
two of
even
them.
know them? Oh my
I
goodness.
didn't even know them. I didn't even know who the hell they were.
I've had many a CXO say, "Josh, you want to be a CTO or CEO? Yeah, let me put my arm around you and tell you what that really means. It's not all glitz and glamour like you think. There's all these things that now you have to do that aren't fun, that are hard, and are kind of scary at times. And that's the job. So you better buckle up."
Don't be afraid to ask for help. Do not. Ask them to wrap their arm around you and guide you. Be humble. Know what you know and what you don't know. Entry music. Da, 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 da. It's the Bob and Josh Show.
Congratulations. You are now a new leader, and you have a team, and they're a little bit riley. And what the heck do you do about it? And oh, by the way, you probably don't have any support. You didn't get any coaching. You didn't get anything. So that's today's episode. Today's episode is you've been thrust into a leadership role. It's happened to many of us. And you get thrust into a leadership role because a leader is needed. But you've never been a leader before. And the team needs leadership badly. So how do you do that? What do you do? Do you tiptoe in or do you come in swinging? How do you manage that? Mr. Robert Galen, how do you feel about this subject? Are you juiced up? Are you ready to go?
I'm ready to go a little bit. I'm half juiced.
Oh.
But let me tell a story. I probably told this story before, Metacasters, but I'll make it fast. My first management job, leadership job, I was a senior developer in like 1985, and I was senior developer architect, just working individual. I wasn't really even part of a team. Back then, there weren't really development. There were development teams, but you all worked individually, and the manager's job was to integrate stuff,
Right.
I guess. So I was happily just coding. I mean, every day just coding, and it seemed to work out, and I got my paycheck. And one day I walked in, and on my chair was an org chart, and well, printed. It was a printed org chart. And I'm like, well, what the hell's that? And I look at it, and my name was in the box at the top. And then there were other people's names underneath me. And I still said, like, what the hell was that? Right? I had no inclination of what the hell that was about. And I ran to my boss. I think I had to wait a couple hours because, timing or whatever. And my boss is like, well, you're promoted. And I'm like, okay. And what does that mean? And he's like, well, now you're managing people. To be specific, the people on that silly report that I slapped on your chair, that org chart. And I was flabbergasted. I didn't know I wasn't a lead. Now, I'd done time in the Army. I understood what leadership was like, but at the same time, I wasn't looking for it. And immediately, I was the leader of a team of about 8 people. And we had projects to do. And I'll be honest, I sucked at it initially. I had no training. I had zero training. I had zero desire. And it was, and I did really bad. I started micromanaging, Josh.
Yeah.
So I was a bit of a perfectionist coder. It was a bit like Bob's way is the right way. And then I percolated that out with good intentions, but I percolated that out, and it wasn't well received. And then I had a manager who wasn't a good mentor or a good. I had a manager who probably who had walked in his chair.
He had a similar situation, right?
He had a similar situation, right? With Bob Galen's name on it. Shit. And so that was my invitation. I'm hoping people do that better today, but that was my story. That was my entry strategy into leadership. So one day I was happy-go-lucky Dev Bob, and the next day I was not so happy-go-lucky Manager Bob.
And I assume the team around you wasn't perfect, needed a little bit of leveling up, had some challenges, maybe
I didn't even know two of them.
You didn't even know them? Oh my goodness.
I didn't even know them. I didn't even know who the hell they were. right? I was like, who the hell's that?
Right.
I
Yeah.
would no, it was yeah. And yes, my manager in his infinite wisdom, I don't think there was a lot of thoughtfulness when it came to like, we're going to put together technical skills or no.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's say something like that happens. I expect that there are situations. There's likely a little bit more conversation, probably less surprise these days. If you walk in with an org chart on your seat, there's probably a discussion of like, "Hey, this is happening." Maybe not. Hopefully, it does happen. But I think Bob's situation of being thrust into a leadership role for the first time without a lot of support, without a lot of real leadership development, someone probably has determined that you have leadership capabilities, and
Yep.
so
Yep.
they kick you out of the nest and say, "Go get him, Tiger." And that's where a lot of people flounder. So I
Well,
floundered the
let me
same way Bob did. I wanted the role, I got the role, and then I was not good in the role and had to figure that out. So, however you got there, I believe many of us get into that position where you're now a leader and you kind of look around and scratch your head and say, now what? And you just start doing stuff. So that's what today is about, is what are the things you should start doing and things you should not start doing.
I like that. I have one to start with, Josh.
Yeah.
And it's what I started doing there in that instance, as I recall, is doing the work. So I thought management was about the work,
Mm-hmm.
prime directive of the work. And I dove into telling people what to do. You got to get this done. We got to get this done. We got to do this without introducing myself. So there's two fellows that I didn't know. I didn't really get to know them, except by telling them what to do. So I would say, don't put the work first. The work is second. What's first is relationship building and getting to know the team and maybe kicking off the team a little bit. And I didn't do that at all. I
Mm-hmm.
don't think I did that for years. I always looked at that as soft and squishy. Oh, that's that soft and squishy team building crap. We got to get stuff done. I probably was in that mode for 2 or 3 years. Uh, so don't, yes, it's important to get the work done, but take some time to get to know people. What do they want to do? Maybe have some one-on-ones, maybe do a kickoff. What culture are you looking for? It's going to take time. In hindsight, I should have done that. I
Mm-hmm.
started doing that much later, but I should have done that right from the get-go.
Well, I think the hard part is the thoughts that are coming to my mind and the things that I do now is I have an expectation for our culture and how we work together and what the norms that I believe in are. But right out of the gate, I didn't know what those were. I
That's what
had no
I
idea. I
didn't have.
hadn't developed them yet, so
Yep.
that's a challenge. Similar to Bob's point, what I did not do, what I did not recognize, what I did not understand was that my job shifted from shipping code to finding ways to help all of these people become better at their job. And it took me probably 15 years before I realized that was really the job that I was supposed to be doing. That my job was make this group of people as successful as possible. And when I
Right.
did that, great things happen. And part of the way I figured that out is I crushed myself because I put all of the responsibility of success on me and through me. So everything ran through me. I wasn't micromanaging, but everything had to hit the Josh checkpoint and the Josh thumbs up. And that limited our capacity because my capacity was only so wide. So we couldn't run as fast as we could because I was a checkpoint and a gate for everything. And I thought I was doing the right thing because to Bob's point, I was focused on shipping product versus shipping great individuals or shipping a great team. And when I shifted towards focusing on that, then teams exploded and accelerated and we began delivering value faster than I ever imagined because I was focusing on the right things.
Right. Another mistake I made, man, I'm taking this trip down memory lane right now. Another mistake I made was doing more of the work myself and depending or delegating less of the work to other people.
Mm-hmm.
And so then as my work multiplied, my work, you know, so moving from individual contributor to a leader, my work increased, but I didn't leverage the team as much as I should have.
Yeah.
So I started losing my life basically and doing a lot of extra work. I was managing Microsoft project plans and
Oh boy.
communicating. So it wasn't just the coding part, it was also the planning part, the communication part to leadership and all of that. So I was pulling all-nighters back then, uh, which wasn't good for my health, wasn't good for my marriage, etc. Um, Probably more delegation. I should have been more comfortable. I wasn't mature enough though. I didn't trust other people, right? I
Mm-hmm.
didn't build trust. Um, and so it was really, and again, I didn't have very good role models. Um, so I didn't know what technical management leadership should look like. So it took me quite a while to then start delegating to people. Um,
Yeah.
and it was only the
And
ones I trusted to start with, like high
yeah.
trust. It wasn't ever. It took me. So if you were a moderate developer, it took me forever to trust you. Like the
Yeah.
high performers were easier for me. The like average developers, it took me much longer, and they were still on my team. I should have empowered them. Go ahead, Josh.
Yeah, one of the challenges that you'll face taking this approach, assuming you're in this path where you've been thrust into a situation where you're now a leader, and Bob and I are telling you this is how you should be leading, you're likely going to be the only one actually leading within your organization. Bob and I have worked places where the norm was leaders operated exactly like Bob talked about, where you knew everything, everything ran through you. And if you didn't have all of the answers, you were viewed as not the leader that was desired. And so when you're taking this approach, when you're actually doing the right thing, when you're actually leading, because you're likely in a situation where there aren't mentors or examples of what great leadership looks like, and you start doing the things we're talking about, you're going to run into some pushback of actually, no, Josh, I want you to have all of the answers as opposed to delegating it to other people. That's not what I want. Like I want that single ringable neck, right? That thing that you might hear often. And that's you. You are the leader and you're responsible for that. Yes, I am responsible for that. But the way that we're going to deliver on that is by me empowering my people and helping them get better at their job. When you focus on making every member of your team better at their job, the whole team accelerates. You get that rising tide lifts all boats. But you are likely going to be doing this in face of opposition of you are now doing things differently than others do. So be prepped and prepared that oftentimes in doing the right thing, as we're teaching you, as we're saying, has worked for us, you're going to run into some pushback from maybe your boss who wants you to lead in, the old way, wants you to manage, wants you to be that single ringable neck. So there is going to be challenge, but Bob and I have been down this path where we've done that, and and I know for me, it crushed me, and I worked hours and hours and hours, and I just, and my life didn't go in the direction I wanted it to, and I said, I've got to change this, and that's what started to make the change in how I decided to lead, and that led me into some of these challenges within these companies where I was working. I'm like, I'm not going to lead like you guys, and then that get you some sideways looks and questions, but you got to be ready to stand up and fight for those.
I'm going to disagree a little bit, Josh. I'm going to say most organizations. So you're a brand new leader, and you're trying to find your way. So 90% of the time, your leader is going to be a traditional leader.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're going to be expected to be a traditional leader and do
Mm-hmm.
it their way. So if you want to buck the system, I agree with Josh that bucking the system is the right thing to do. Empowered, right? Modern day leadership is the right thing to do. And it's going to generate more effective business results. But at the same time, most leaders that you report to don't get it.
Mm-hmm.
And even if they allow you to do that, they're still going to want you to be the single ringable neck, using Josh's term. They're still going to want reports from you. If there's an emergency or the shit is hitting the fan, they're still going to expect you to micromanage everyone, etc. So you want to do that in moderation, is my point. You probably need to figure out where is your leadership team and your direct leader in general. Where is their lineage? where's your lineage? And then if you're making adjustments, don't do it too extreme, because it'll just make your life miserable, because they'll be disagreeing, and you're a new leader, so you don't need to bite off all that tension. Now, once you get your feet underneath you, once you get some experience, then I think you can increase that tension. But you want to be careful about doing that right from the beginning, depending on the situation.
Yeah, that's a fair clarification. One of the things that I've often heard after I've left is people didn't realize all of the noise that was happening at the leadership level, and the Josh umbrella is gone. And people are like, holy crap, we didn't realize all of the crap that
Right.
you were dealing with. And that's what a good leader in a scenario that Bob talked about does, is you are the translation layer. You are the one that can speak to both the existing leadership style, the existing management style, and can speak that language, and can protect the team and allow them to run and do their thing as effectively as possible. And so you have to do that hard, messy work of being the shield and the translation layer for both sides. And that is definitely a challenge, but that is part of the job when you're bucking the system and you're building the new way to lead in an organization that manages in the historical way.
Yep. When Josh and I were discussing this Metacast, he brought up an example, I think the genesis point for him, and I'll let him correct me, but he was saying of TikTok, of little videos that we get, like 50 that he posts based on our leadership episodes. 50% of the comments seem to be, I can't do that. Nice idea. That's not a real world idea. I don't even want to touch that. I want to put my head down. And so I want to use that as a backdrop. That doesn't surprise me, where 50% of the folks, whether they're leaders or not, managers or not, are reacting to our leadership discussions and saying, hell no, I won't go. Right? That's a great, I don't think they're disagreeing with our ideas.
Correct.
They're disagreeing with, but I don't feel comfortable doing that. So now going back to our premise of you transition to that role, I have some really bad news for you. You've now been selected to be a manager. Well, you're also a leader. So it's not about your comfort anymore. It's not about your skill anymore. It is. It sort of is. Am I comfortable with this? Am I skilled with this? It's not about your safety anymore, right? Is it safe for me to argue with Josh? It's all of those things are present, but I'm of the mind that, and Josh and I had some tension around this topic when we were prepping, right? I'm of the mind that if you're a leader and you have the privilege of leadership, management leadership, and if you've been given that privilege, then you have to step into it. So saying no is not an option. Saying that's too hard for me is not really a good option. Saying I'm afraid of that is not a good option. Throwing one of your minions, throwing them in front of your boss and saying, it's not my fault, it's Josh's fault. We'll fire Josh is not an option. It's not. So what is an option? You can decline that. If you're not up to it, then get the hell out of it. Don't take there's benefits to this. I got more money in my scenario, right? I got more money. I had more prestige. If I'd left that job, I would have been now getting jobs from a manager leadership perspective, which moved me up the chain, if you will. So there's benefits associated with that. Well, don't take the benefits if you're not willing to do the hard work, if you're not willing to take the risk. So at that beginning or at any point in time, an option is to put your head down. I'm going to take that away from most of you, and Josh is going to he's going to correct me. I'm going to take the put your head down, and you could get out of leadership and just say, look, preferably at the beginning, and say, you know what, I really don't want to do this. I don't think I'm not up to this. This is not aligned with my direction. It's not aligned with my principles or whatever. Make something up. I have 3 dogs and I can't, I can't put the time in it, right? Whatever you have to do, but don't go there. It's like a developer. They can't write code and then they take the job. Well, what are you going to do? You're not going to give them off the hook. Oh, it's okay. You can do Crayola coloring while everyone else is coding their ass off. No, or you can do AI and you don't have to think anymore. No, you still have to develop those skills. So Josh, so what I'm saying, everyone, is it's a hard job, and really the choice is not in the game to do it or not to do it or to duck your head. It's to get in or get out. I would prefer that you get in and you do the hard work and you do the heavy lifting for learning.
I'm going to surprise Bob, and I'm going to tell a story that aligns with him. One of the better lessons that I learned was from a CEO that I really respected, and we were walking out of the building, going to our cars at the end of the day, and we were talking, and I was just asking him what he was doing, because I had to go to practice and pick up my kids and do all this stuff, and I felt like I had like all this stuff I had to do. And then he told me what he had to do. And he had a dinner meeting with an investor, and then he had some leadership team members that were coming over to his house later to do a thing. I'm like, holy shit. Like, what, like, do you ever get a break? And he's like, Josh, no. What you have to realize is that as your leadership responsibility increases and you are responsible for more of the company, your personal freedom of choice of what you can do goes down. It's the opposite of what many people think. If you are a good leader, which this person was, and he realized everything that he needed to do for all the members of the company, all of the people that he was responsible for, the business that he had built, and he realized all the things that he had to do, there were things that he wanted to do that he just couldn't do because he had these things he had to do, and it wasn't a choice because he knew it was the right thing to do. Sure, he could have opted out. Sure, he could have done the thing that Bob had talked about. I was like, I don't want to do that, so I'm not going to do that. And you know what? The company wouldn't have been the success it was, and I wouldn't have learned what I did over those years in working with him because he understood what was required to be a good leader, and he recognized that. So your first job is just a little sliver of the taste of. I've had many a CXO say, "Oh, Josh, you want to be a CTO or CEO? Yeah, let me put my arm around you and tell you what that really means. It's not all glitz and glamour like you think. There's all these things that now you have to do that aren't fun, that are hard, and are kind of scary at times. And that's the job. So you better buckle up." And so that's what Bob is saying. And Bob's right. Now, there are things that like teacher Josh wants to get out and say, like softball. I'm like, oh, okay, this is how you do it. But no matter what, hard stuff is there and you're going to have to do it. So once you're in, you're in. And if you realize it's not for you, then the best thing you can do is just opt out. And that's okay. That's fine.
And the best thing to do if you opt in, and I prefer you opt in, right? If you have any inclination towards it, is go get yourself a coach and a mentor. And if your boss, or if you have that in the environment, then lean into them. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Do not. Ask them to wrap their arm around you and guide you. Be humble. Know what you know and what you don't know. If your boss isn't that way, if you've found an org chart on your chair, then your boss is probably, in fact, my boss, that was an indicator, Metacasters, that my boss, that person was not a good manager leader. So then I have to go find other people. Actually, in that job, I waited around a bit. And like in 3 years, Rick Pizzuto was a guy that came in as the new director in the company. Rick had an Air Force background. And Rick was the first great leader that I learned from. So I was sort of thrashing a little bit. I was doing my best. I was reading some books and things, and I wasn't terrible. I got shit done. I wasn't terrible, but I wasn't a pleasure to work with. Not like I am now. But Rick really, I don't even know if I ever acknowledged it to him, but he really helped me figure out what good leadership was. Now, to my credit, I emulated him. Like I was like a sponge when it came to learning because I was aspiring to be a great leader. So mentoring is being humble and open and really yearning to become better. I think is something that you want to foster in this transition.
Yeah, you are going to have to work hard because you're going to have to go find what great leadership looks like. Because to Bob's point, and my experience as well, says that you're not likely to be surrounded by great leaders. So the examples you have in front of you aren't going to be great. So you're going to have to do the extra work, the extra credit to go find it. Go find what great looks like and then start building that in the face of opposition, likely of this is what we expect, but you believe this is how it's done right. And so you're going to have to do that work of merging those two together and learning to speak both languages until you gain the responsibility and the trust to start changing the overall culture. But that is the challenge of really being a great leader is hard because you are often the outsider. You are often the one doing things differently.
I would add something, and I alluded to it earlier. I think an important part to attack early is this notion of self-care. Like from the get-go, and I didn't do it early. Remember I said I was pulling all-nighters and stuff, so I had I had no idea of self-care, and I paid a penalty for that. Metacasters, I'm actually 38 years old, and look what this crap has done to me. I'm wrinkled and stuff. So don't do what I did. Um, but it's immediately dive into self-care. Immediately, if you haven't already, you should already be cognizant of it and investing in yourself. But if you're not, or lean in more heavily. That's taking time off. That's empowering your team. That's taking time to learn, taking time to recharge your batteries, taking time to hang out with your family, vacations. In the U.S., we have a terrible habit in the United States of like accruing vacations and feeling guilty about vacations and stuff. A lot of folks in Europe are much more advanced than we are. They suck their vacations up unapologetically.
Yep.
And we need to actually have that. I think we need to adopt that mindset of really unapologetically, feeding ourselves, because again, it's this hard job. So make sure that you're taking care of yourself so you have the energy and the enthusiasm and the presence to do that.
Yeah. The last thing that I want to leave folks with is unlock or acceleration point for Josh as a leader was once I had figured out who I wanted to be as a leader, what my leadership style was. And it took me probably 10, 15 years of stumbling and fumbling around to get that. So if you can find a way to accelerate that and really get to a point where you have clarity on this is a leadership approach that I believe in, the sooner you can get to that, the more effective you're going to be, because you're going to be wrestling with all these questions. And it's really difficult when you're now in the job and you don't have that answer. And I operated in that mode for at least a decade where I was a leader and I was figuring it out, and it wasn't totally fair for my teams, but at least I was trying, right? It was better than the option where it
Yeah.
was somebody that didn't care. So because you cared, because you're trying, you're likely going to be doing better than those that don't care and aren't trying to figure out leadership style. But that's a thing that you need to sprint towards. So Bob, I don't know if you have any shortcuts. I can't think of any that can figure that out other than just like study your ass off about how you get to that point sooner than I did, because that was one of those things that once I figured that out and I had clarity, I'm like, okay, cool. I know how to do this. Let's go. And I could deliver on that. Then our teams became the teams I aspired for them to be. But it took me a while to figure that out. And I don't know how to shortcut that.
I think I think it's experience. I'm going to lean into humility. I think a lot of times what gets in our way is you have to be open to learn and open to observe. And if that takes a while, and you have to be open to being wrong. Um, and and I think it's a humility sort of step. If you have role models, And you can have a role model outside of your company. They don't even know I have role models in my career that don't even know they were my role models. I was
Right.
just watching what they were doing, and I was emulating what they were doing, and I was finding my own way. So I I think you can accelerate by your humility. You can accelerate by your curiosity. You can accelerate by your level of effort to be curious and to learn and to read, um, to ask questions of other folks, to ask someone to go out and ask someone to be your mentor. I think folks wait for that. It's something I never have understood. Josh and particularly I know I do this. I'm like, if you want to coach or you want to mentor, all you have to do is ask me. I've
Yeah.
been doing this for over 20 years. I could probably count the number of people that have approached me, maybe as 30 or so. I'm like, that's not very many. That's like maybe one a year or something like that, or one or
Right.
two a year. And it's like a freebie. And I sit back and I'm like, why? So don't fall into whatever that trap is. Don't fall into it. Now I do want to point out, Metacasters, that I think I was the pivot point for Josh. I think I was that he was waiting to meet me all those years, and then I was his aha. Josh, is that true?
Uh, you were a part of the overall aha. I don't know you were the aha. You're giving yourself a little bit too much credit, but you were definitely part of the transition because um similar
Oh,
to me discovering agile, where I looked around and found out, oh hey, there's this thing that's agile, and we're doing it, and that showed me a community of people trying to operate the same way. Bob was the guy that was leading in a similar manner to the way I wanted to lead, so it gave me to someone to like latch onto. What, you're
Metacasters,
enjoying this?
sometimes I do something not to blow my own horn, but just the joy in me is seeing someone's reaction. It's not about me. And Josh just gifted me a lot of joy.
But yes, I don't think I would be the leader I am today without Bob. Bob certainly
Stop
played a
it.
role in that.
That's not what I was looking for.
It doesn't matter, Bob.
I
I'm not
was
asking.
looking for
I'm
I
not
was
arguing
looking
with
for
you.
that discomfort,
Just
that tremendous discomfort.
you.
Metacasters, let's go back to the premise. The premise is a leadership job, management job, probably, but with leadership connotations, has landed in your lap. What do you do? Hopefully, we've given you some tips. I'd say don't generally run away from it. Run towards it. The world needs better leaders. Uh, it's not for the faint of heart. Trust your judgment, and lean into it, and really truly listen to some of the advice, some of the stories we've done. Josh and we've run similar. We're very different. We've grown up differently, different eras. But if you listened, we had very similar paths in our style, and I think many leaders have very similar paths. So there's this unified path. I think you can short circuit it a little bit. And if you're not up for it, don't be shy. Be happy. So don't be shy. Don't be a bad leader, right?
Yeah.
If you're going to be a leader, be a good leader. Don't be a bad leader. If you're not up to the challenge, then just defer for a little while. Josh, final words?
Yeah, I think the last thing that would really give people is make sure that when you become the leader that you aspire to be, and the leader where you're helping others, make sure you learn how to take a compliment. Unlike Bob, Bob quickly tried to dodge that. I started to
I
say
did.
nice
I
things about
did.
Bob,
I
and Bob was
did.
like,
I
no,
did
no,
judge
no,
it.
let's not talk about that. We're gonna end the episode. Like, no, like learn how to take it, and that's a skill. Let me tell you, that's a
It
skill.
is. Thank you,
Yeah.
Josh. I am the best thing since sliced bread. I agree with that. So,
Uh,
Metacasters, from beautiful downtown Cary, North Carolina,
and beautiful downtown Fuquay Arena, North Carolina.
I'm Bob the Hitman Galen.
And I'm Josh the Anvil Anderson.
Yeah, shake.
And bake.
Take care, y'all.